Jim Morrison spent quite a bit of time here in Las Vegas over the years, and in today's video we're going to be going over that, and I hope you'll all stick around. Let's go. And so first up, we are at the Las Vegas Convention Center, and this is where Jim Morrison performed his very first show here in Las Vegas with the Doors. It was a sold-out show here. Now, the Convention Center used to look different back in the 60s. Here is a picture of it. It resembled kind of a spaceship, and it was called the Las Vegas Convention Center Silver Domed Arena. And here is also a picture of the marquee announcing the show. Now, the Doors were riding high on the popularity of their self-titled first album and their hit single Light My Fire, which went to #1 and spent 3 weeks there. Here is also a very cool article that I was able to dig up regarding the show, and you'll notice it says Teeny Boppers Abandoned Shoes. And what that was is the hippie kids back then, they were still called Teeny Boppers, and they never wore shoes. They always walked around barefoot, a lot of the hippie kids back then. But the convention center here, they had a dress code and you had to wear shoes. And so what the kids did is they wore their shoes to the show, but when they got past the ticket taker, the turnstile, they took their shoes off and started boogieing to the Doors, and a lot of them just left their shoes there, and I guess it was some kind of almost like a protest. And this article is basically it's the convention center complaining about the kids leaving their shoes there, and I thought that was kind of cool. So now we're going to head down, and I'm going to show you where Jim got busted. So right now, guys and girls, we are a little south of the convention center over here on the Las Vegas Strip at the Palazzo Hotel, and these are the Grand Canal shops, and this is where Jim Morrison was arrested at the Pussycat A Go-Go Casino and Nightclub. It also doubled as a music venue. A lot of really cool acts played there. I know that Sly and the Family Stone had a show here, but that is not why Jim and his friend Robert Gover, that is the friend he was arrested with, Robert Gover, the author of the $100 Misunderstanding. They were here visiting from LA, and they were hanging out with Roger's friends, and they came up here to see a band called Stark Naked and the Car Thieves, and I had never heard of this band before researching today's video, but that is who they had come here to see. Here is a picture of Stark Naked and the Car Thieves. If anybody knows about this band, let me know, because I had never heard of them before. Now, apparently the reason that Jim was arrested was he was joking around with his friends and pretending to smoke a joint, and he was actually smoking a cigarette. And if you read No One Here Gets Out Alive or any of the other biographies, a lot of them will talk about his arrest here. And apparently, as he came up to the nightclub to go in with his friends to see the band, Stark Naked and the Car Thieves, he was still joking around, like I said, pretending to smoke a joint. And so the bouncers at the front of the club naturally stopped them from coming in, because back then marijuana was a big deal. Today, marijuana, it's legal in most states, but back in 1968, that was a serious thing, and so of course they stopped him. They thought he was smoking a joint, and some kind of confrontation ensued, and words were exchanged, and Jim was struck over the head with a billy club by one of the bouncers, and a big confrontation, verbal shouting match ensued with Robert and Robert's friends. I know Robert was also knocked down also in the, I guess you'd call it a scuffle with security. The police were called, and both Jim and Robert were arrested, and I'm going to take you now and show you where they were taken to jail. So we are at 200 South 3rd Street in downtown Las Vegas, and we are at the front entrance to the Downtown Las Vegas Event Center. But this used to be the old Clark County Courthouse and jail. here is a photo of what the courthouse and jail looked like, and this is exactly what it would have looked like when Jim and Robert were brought here and booked on charges of public drunkenness and disorderly conduct. Here also is Jim's booking photo. I know you saw the one on today's thumbnail, but here also is the full booking photo of the front and side view. And they were booked here on the night of January 28th, 1968. Now, both Jim and Roger had long hair, obviously, and it was customary practice in those days for the old Clark County Jail to strip search anyone with long hair under the guise of trying to find drugs on them. And so both Jim and Robert were ordered to take their clothes off, and they were strip searched. And because Jim had been giving the jailers such a hard time, both he and Robert were doused with a boric acid powder. And I am not familiar with boric acid powder, but apparently when you get that on your skin, it is very irritating and it burns and it's very uncomfortable. And so they were doused with this boric acid powder, and then they were ordered to put their clothes back on, and they were both put in a cell. Now, according to Robert, Jim was very agitated at this point, and he was panting very heavily. And when they got into their cell, he began climbing up and down the bars of the cell and yelling at the guards and calling them names. And that didn't sit well with the guards, obviously. So one of them came over and he told Jim, "Hey, when I get off at midnight, me and you are going to have a private police meeting." And that must have terrified Robert, because, you know, if they're going to beat Jim up, they're probably going to beat Robert up. And fortunately for both Robert and Jim, Robert's girlfriend got here before midnight and bailed both of them out. Now, when Jim and Robert's girlfriend headed out of the Clark County Jail here, they went to go get into Robert's car, and Jim asked Robert, "Hey, can I drive your car?" And without thinking it through, Robert said, "Sure." And Jim got into Robert's car and proceeded to drive down these Las Vegas streets as fast as he could. I mean, he was flooring it. And he was yelling, "Chaos, chaos, chaos." I don't know what that meant or what the significance of it was, but Robert was able to force the car off to the side of the road and get behind the wheel. And I guess they went back to wherever they were staying with Robert's friends and got their stuff and headed back to LA. Now, when they got back to LA, Jim got a hold of his attorneys, and they were able to get all of the charges dropped or taken care of. I know that they obtained a copy of the police report and immediately got the disturbing the peace charges taken care of. And as far as the public drunkenness, I believe that was taken care of with time served. And if any of you are not familiar with how that works in the criminal justice system, if you go to jail, sometimes that will take care of whatever charge that you had if it was small enough, and you can get credit with time served. Because there is no record of Jim or Robert ever coming back to Las Vegas to face any kind of criminal charges or pay any fines. So I think that was all taken care of by Jim's attorneys. So guys and girls, in this old, almost abandoned shopping mall here on the east side of town at 800 East Karen Avenue here in Las Vegas, this is where the Doors played their second and final concert here in October, either October or November of 1969. Now, the dates are a little disputed. Some people say October, like I said, some people say November, but for sure they played a show here in 1969, and this used to be called the Ice Palace. And it could still be a concert venue if they want to make it one. They were talking about bringing it back and having concerts here again, because it was an iconic club back in its day. Led Zeppelin played here. Jimi Hendrix played here. A lot of bands over the years. But the Doors also played here too. Now, Led Zeppelin and Jimi Hendrix and some of the other bands that played here, they played here because they were up and coming bands, and so they weren't big enough to play arenas yet, and so they came here and played the Ice Palace. The Doors, however, the reason that they played here and not the Las Vegas Convention Center, which I showed you earlier, that they played in 1967, was because they were blacklisted in 1969 after the Miami incident. And for those of you that are not familiar with the Miami incident, that is where the Doors had played a concert in Miami's Dinner Key Auditorium. And basically Jim had tried to start a riot at the concert like he had done so many times. And he was unsuccessful. A riot did not break out. However, Jim was accused of exposing himself, and I don't know whether he did or whether he didn't. He was arrested for it a few weeks after the show, and he was later put on trial and convicted and sentenced to 6 months in jail. Now, whether he, like I said, whether he did it or not, I don't know. The surviving Doors have all said that Jim did not expose himself, so who knows? But like I said, the Doors were blacklisted, and this was the only club at that time that would book the Doors to play. All of their concert dates for their the album The Soft Parade, which came out in 1969, those had all been canceled and nobody was booking them. And so a local promoter here named Mike Tell decided to go ahead and take a chance, and he fought with the city, and he won. And a lot of the kids here in town supported Mike Bell, and they went to the local radio stations and TV stations and wrote letters to the editor. Here is an article that I was able to dig up where it says that they're defending the group's act, and they're talking about the kids. And the show did go on. It went on, and it went on without a hitch. However, it was a very bizarre show. The Doors only played one song, and that was When the Music's Over. And they played it over and over and over again for about 30 minutes. And then Jim walked off stage, and the Doors played for a moment, and then they put their instruments down and they walked off stage. And here is a picture of that show, and it's the only known picture of the show, and you can see Jim is clean shaven, and it looks like he cut his hair. I know at this time Jim was trying to audition for parts in movies, and I don't think he was successful. No one really showed interest in him as an actor. But yeah, the Doors played here, and nothing, there was no craziness, there was no riot. Jim didn't expose himself. And it's funny because after playing here, it seemed like that this concert venue and playing this show seemed to restart the Doors' career, because within a few months of playing this venue, the Doors were back to playing arenas and big venues for thousands of people. So I credit personally this venue and the promoter Mike Tell and this venue, the Ice Palace, for, like I said, helping to restart the Doors' career. Well, guys and girls, I want to thank each and every one of you for joining me on today's video. Those new to the channel, please consider subscribing. It helps make me a better vlogger. I enjoy hearing from each and every one of you, and I will talk with you all on my next location. Bye-bye.